Thank you for joining us. Please make sure that you get interactive. We have Facebook JoyNews on TV. We also do have a Twitter handle at JoyNews on TV. And you can also watch us live through our YouTube channel, JoyNews TV. And as you watch us through these handles, make sure you subscribe. We're here to speak to an associate of political science, works with the University of Ghana, is a vocal person when it comes to subject of corruption, corporate governance, the governance of our country, and you can always know who he is when I introduce him. We're speaking to Professor Ransford Gyampo, and I'll say good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
Right, and I see that we're speaking to you within a period when we have a lot of activities ongoing, just to prepare us for the general elections in 2020, the registration that is ongoing. First, let me tease out your own observations after these number of days that we've had this, based on what you've heard, based on what you've observed about how it's going for you.
Well, generally, I was pleasantly surprised that within 1 week, the Electoral Commission said it had been able to register about 2 million Ghanaians. My instinct was, well, does it mean we are so partisan and we don't care, or does it also mean that we do not know the implications of going to converge around an area just for the purpose of registration in the midst of COVID? But I think generally, because I'm saying this because my earlier prediction was that maybe that prediction will still hold. My earlier view was that you would have a lot of people who may not be able to show up at the registration centers to register because of the fear of contracting COVID-19, and that was my fear. But we've just done 1 week, and so until we are done with the full process, maybe that prediction may hold. But I am quite pleasantly surprised that 2 million Ghanaians have been able to register so far. Well, it means people are either eager to vote or they are eager to use, to get the card as a form of identification. Of course, I went to my hometown. I spoke to quite a number of people, and you talk to them, they tell you that when we go to bank, we don't have identification. And we are waiting for national identification cards. They've registered us, and we haven't had our own. Some are also saying they've not even been registered, and so they don't have any legitimate or valid identification. So they feel that this is an opportunity for them to get some meaningful form of identification. So they've been there. But the most important thing is that for now there's been about 2 million Ghanaians who have registered, and it's something that is quite good, because my fear is that the legitimacy of the register would be in question if it is not able to capture the full complement of Ghanaians who are expected to be on it to serve as a mechanism for voting.
And we do know that the Electoral Commission says that it intends registering between 60 million and 70 million. Now, going forward, one thing that we have noticed, based on what our reporters have said, is that people have not been able to observe the social distancing, but more so the Electoral Commission has failed to implement these protocols adequately.
Well, I mean, it's something that we predicted, I mean, long ago. It's something that was to be predicted. I said that in the lead up to every election, you have the Electoral Commission telling you that everything is set. You get there and you realize that there is delay in start of polls. You get there and realize that you have shortage of polling materials, and there are some minor hitches that have always characterized the conduct of our elections since 1992. And I keep wondering, I've always wondered, when are we going to get all these things right? And so when they said that they're going to have all the protocols observed and they're going to have all the safety PPEs and other safety devices there, I told them that, well, if experiences over the years will teach us anything, then I doubt. I don't trust what they were saying. And yes, I've been around, visited polling stations, registration centers, and I've seen that the kinds of things that they said they will be doing. Well, I mean, to be fair, certain areas do not have thermometer guns, but most of the areas that I saw had thermometer guns, which was good. But the point is, they have not been able to prevent people from converging and from doing things that will make them susceptible to contracting the disease. And I keep saying that it seems to me that in our part of the world, leadership and policymakers do not seem to understand the caliber of citizenry that they are dealing with.
And why do you say that?
I say that because we are a developing country. Okay, one feature of every developing country that qualifies it to be described as a third world country is that oftentimes that country has a population that is ignorant and uninformed. It's a feature. Okay, so unless you understand the caliber of people you are dealing with, you would only, I've heard the Electoral Commission say that, well, they've done what they are supposed to do, and it's up to Ghanaians to be, the Ghanaians are old and matured enough to be able to know how to observe.
And you have a problem with that?
And I have a problem with that.
Because you think the Electoral Commission should not be saying that?
It seems that then they don't understand the caliber of people they are dealing with. The caliber of people that constitute a developing country are not well informed. One of the features of every developing country is that it has majority of its citizenry being ignorant. And so you have to do two things. You have to overly educate and sensitize them. That is number one. And number two, you have to ensure rigid enforcement of every protocol or every rule. But you cannot sit down and say, I've said this, and they know, they are adults. They should know what is right. Maybe they don't understand the caliber of people you are governing. I went to my hometown. At a point in time, I had to buy some food stuff. So I went to those people, fishmongers, along the Komante Abanzi Road. And they were selling to me. I had to cancel them. Why won't you put on your face mask and all? And they made some funny remarks. Said, what do you mean? We don't have coronavirus here. Coronavirus is only a plague of big people in government. That's what they said. I had to spend time educating. The more I spoke to them, the more they saw me as ignorant. Okay, so you have an ignorant citizenry, most of whom reside in the rural hinterlands. And so if you do not appreciate them, that this is the caliber of people I'm dealing with, then look, whatever you do, you are set to fail. Okay, particularly in the midst of fighting COVID-19, and particularly as we try to ensure that we do not have a lot of infected cases.
The Coalition for Domestic Election Observers, they did indicate after a week of observing this registration exercise that it looks like the BVRs were not performing well. And then also the social distancing protocols did indicate that the citizenry were not adequately informed. Now, you have also raised this. What form of education were we anticipating?
Well, let me say this. You were anticipating a certain decentralized form of education that is not national radios and television.
Meaning what, the education should go to the ground?
The education should go to the grassroots and it should be sustained. You see, one function of the Electoral Commission that it has been abysmal in discharging is public education. In fact, their mandate, part of their mandate is also to serve as agents of political socialization and public education. So when you talk about public education, about issues of elections and registration, the political parties have a role, NCC has a role, the Electoral Commission itself has a role. I heard one or two advertisements and announcements on radio, but I think it was not sustaining enough. And then also, most of these adverts and announcements were centered in the big cities. If you go to a grassroots, you know that they know next to nothing of these things. I mean, you may have one or two wearing face masks, but they do not even appreciate or understand fully the reason why they are wearing face masks. But they wear face masks and pull it over to their chin when they want to talk, and all manner of things. So much close together, stampeding here and there, and you wonder and you ask them, and their responses tell you that, well, indeed, it's a feature of a developing country. The population itself, majority of them are not too literate, and they are not too knowledgeable about some of these things. And so you must understand them. If you understand this, then there should be some rigid enforcement of rules. No, that's number one. And number two, there should be massive and sustained sensitization and public education drive that would ensure that before people go there, they know what they're about and they know how to take care of themselves.
You're one person. We don't even have to come and interact with you physically before we know your thoughts. We just have to go on to your account on social media, on Facebook. You published it 3 days ago, and I would want to read this to you and ask you this preceding post question. To develop our democracy, we must sometimes copy, but to copy, we must only copy best practices. Now, the practice of using bad precedent to justify our current actions when we have the opportunity to do the right thing makes us a weak people. What did you mean by this?
Well, this meant something that is completely different. In fact, what I meant in that post has nothing to do with what we are talking about, unless you want us to divert into that. If you want us to...
what got me interested was the related action of getting the tenets of democracy and its practice right and copying from the best. And in relating it to this is that we have the best democracies in the world.
Oh no, that's not what I meant.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, okay.
But the way they undertake their actions leading up to how they want to practice their democracy is far better off than what we think we're doing.
No, that's what what you are saying is right, but that's not what I meant. Well, I wanted to say that it was just an insinuation. I just wanted to say that I had heard people saying that Professor Mills asked the then Auditor General, Edward Ajiman, to go on leave, and which I thought then was wrong. And then I had heard some people saying that if the current Auditor General has been asked to go on leave, there's been a precedent. And my argument has been that we must always copy from the best practices, not bogus practices. We have the penchant to look for bad, bogus practices that happened in the past. We are we are so swift and quick to go exhume those practices and to use them now to justify what we want to do wrong today. I think it is disingenuous, and it does not help us move on and progress as a developing country. And so I say, if we want to copy, let's only copy the best practices.
Now, back to our register. As we finalize this discussion on the register, there's a key aspect of actions that have been taken by the Electoral Commission, which seem to have posed a certain distrust between it and the main opposition party, the NDC. The NDC convened a news conference. They raised a litany of issues they have with the current register. They said people were still being prevented from areas they believed were still their dominant areas along the border posts just because they were maybe bused to registration centers and not allowed, tapped Togolese and even tapped foreigners. This had been an issue even before the start of the registration exercise. What's your own thoughts about?
No, but the registration is supposed to be meant for Ghanaians.
Definitely.
Okay, so if they are non-Ghanaians, why should anybody entertain non-Ghanaians to register? If they are truly Togolese, then they have no business registering.
What if they are not?
But no, so if they are not, so then there should be a way of ensuring that the people are not Togolese. It is not, the EC cannot even immediately decide that you are a Ghanaian or you are not. It goes through a certain settlement adjudicative processes.
Yes, we do know
so
that. Yes.
The point is that you cannot just look on somebody's forehead and just say that you are not a Ghanaian or you are a Ghanaian. There are certain processes. And so the practice of just turning people away just on the face of their on their looks and on the face of whatever you have against them shouldn't be so much tolerated. I think there are processes that one will have to go through to determine or to decide whether they are Togolese or they are not. And more importantly, I'm thinking the borders have been closed now, and so nobody should be able to move from another country to our borders, our country, to come and register. And so, well, if there are legitimate concerns that they have raised, I think the EC must interrogate and look into it. Otherwise, you cannot have an EC that will continuously be criticized, or an EC that is always being quarreled with by the main opposition party. It's not too good. Let there be some peace so that the EC can have some peace of mind to go about its duty. So it must look into it, into this matter.
Well, not too long ago, the main opposition party itself adored their running mate. So the flag bearer of the party has adored the first woman running mate for their party. Well, many observers think this is historic, that even though it's not the first time we've had a political party in Ghana nominating a female running mate. What's your own thought on this?
Well, it's historic because Ghana's Fourth Republic has been governed essentially by two main parties, NDC and MPP, and this is the first time you are having one of the main parties appointing a female running mate. It's historic because you have the first female vice chancellor of a public university being asked to go partner Professor
John
Mahama. And it's also historic because if you look at the people who were the key contenders, they were all male. She was the only female, and when we're doing the analysis and talking about who is likely to be selected, nobody gave her a dog chance. I know only one politician in the MPP who told me that it is going to be Nana Addo. That's way about a year ago or so. And but subsequently in the discussion, she never featured, and all of a sudden she's the one who has been selected. I think it is something historic.
What do you think about how she has been received, either on social media by mainstream observers or even some connoisseurs like you, professors of political science, so to speak?
Well, generally, level-headed people have received her well. Of course, her own party people will support her, but it is also to be expected that those who belong to the ruling party have also tried to throw some mud, at her and all that. It is to be expected. My disappointment, however, is that there are certain personalities within the ruling party that, in my view, have achieved the level of being described as statesmen. And so I do not expect them to make the kinds of comments about her that the food soldiers are making. She is not an angel. She may have her pluses, but she may also equally have her minuses. And so fair analysis should just look not at her womanhood, but should look at her track record and what she has done.
Is that what you think they're doing? Isn't it more a comparison? Her juxtaposing her abilities with what Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who has been vice presidential candidate for the MPP since 2008?
No, my argument has been, you see, that is an irrational approach. You see,
why not?
When the MPP at a point in time was looking for a general secretary, and they got what's the name?
Dr. Bawumia.
No, I'm talking about MPP general secretary. They got Sir John of pleasant memory. One of the things that they were saying was that we want somebody who will be able to match Asiedu Nketia. I said that is irrational.
Why not?
You must always look for somebody who will be able to match development, somebody who will be able to match the tangible bread and butter issues that affect Ghanaians. And so if you're looking for a running mate and she happens to be an economist, so be it. Don't forget, Jerry Rawlings never had an economist running mate. J. Kufuor never had an economist running mate. Atta Mills never had an economist running mate. So the phenomenon of having an economist who is a running mate is new. Okay, what should be of interest to all of us? I have a lot of respect for Dr. Bawumia, and when he speaks, you can appreciate that he understands the economic issues. I've always argued that he's the only person who is able to explain things better to my understanding. The rest, when they talk, you don't know what they are talking about. You understand? So I have a lot of respect for him. He's an economist par excellence. But if you are looking for a running mate for another political party, you do not necessarily have to say that I'm looking for somebody who will be able to match Dr. Bawumia. If you do that, you miss the point. It's irrational. You should look for somebody who you will say, as for this person, he or she understands the bread and butter issues confronting Ghanaians, and he or she has what it takes to help in translating policies into concrete developmental outcomes reflected in the lives of the ordinary people.
Is that why you wrote just a day ago that the MPP does not fall for the trap of committing political suicide by saying nasty things that may be interpreted as an attack on women? It may haunt them later. A critique of her selection must be based only on issues.
Well, precisely. It's a trap. I mean, somebody has selected his running mate. She's a woman.
Do you think they've already started falling for that trap?
Well, I've heard, at least on social media, and there was one high-ranking one, but of course, unfortunately, the person came to explain that I think he was misquoted or something. But I've heard quite a number of people trying to run her down by making comments that, in my view, can be interpreted to mean an attack on womanhood. If you do that, and women decide to form a constituency to protect their own, mind you that they account for over 52% of our population. And so if they decide to vote for their own, then you would have shot yourself.
But you also do understand those 52% of women, voter population age, would all vote on party lines.
In fact, so in my subsequent analysis, I've said that even though a lot of women are hailing her appointment, generally, women do not vote for their own because of partisan, party political reasons. Unfortunately, women in our part of the world, they don't form one constituency. You see, once they form a constituency, they will say, because she is coming from us, we vote for her. But because of partisan reasons, they are divided. So you will hear a lot of women saying that, well, she's an accomplished scholar, she can do it, but because she's not in my party, I can't vote for her. And so at the end of the day, she would have a lot of work to do if she really wants to court the support of women.
Let me ask you this. What do you think she brings to the table? There's been a big argument over the last 48 hours.
You see, the point is this. If you look at her pedigree, she brings a lot to the table. But I don't want to look at that. What I'm looking at, and in fact, I'm so much expectant, is how she sounds on her first press conference. Okay. At this stage, you see, there are so many people who have the pedigree, there are so many people who have the academic qualifications and all those things, they have achieved a lot. But when you say they should go serve people, they do not have what it takes to serve. And so, at this stage, whether she has what it takes to serve or not depends on what she says during her first press conference. Remember, Barack Obama was nobody. It took the kinds of things he said at their party's Congress for him to be catapulted into the presidency of America. So my point is that if she, let's wait. I'm sure she's going to hold a press conference. Let us see whether she would demonstrate depth. Let us wait to see whether she will demonstrate content. Let us see whether she will demonstrate a firm grasp of the issues, the bread and butter issues that are of utmost concern to Ghanaians. And let us see whether she would be able to articulate a certain policy direction that she would be able to help John Mahama to implement to ensure that people are developed. And when I say people become developed, I'm talking about people's physical quality of life improving. Let us see whether she will be able to articulate those things. If she's able to listen to articulate those things in a manner that is convincing, then people will say, then she's bringing something to the table. I've always said that you have so many scholars, when they talk about national issues, they don't understand or they don't have the grasp. Okay, there are people that you may respect. They have all the achievement. But when you begin to talk about them on matters relating to national politics and what they think about it, you know that the person may be a scholar in her chosen field or his chosen field, but on national issues that borders on ordinary people, they may not have the grasp and all that. So let us see whether she has a grasp. And so for me, her first press conference will be crucial. It
will be very indicative of how you will see the direction as to how she can go.
Yes.
There is a concern that has been expressed. I've seen it widely on some platforms on social media too, that John Dramani Mahama may have been late in in selecting a running mate or even get his campaign going. Even though coronavirus aside, he's in opposition, so ideally.
All the political parties were late. The last election, they were all late in the release of their manifestos. It's a creeping phenomenon, being less timely in releasing of certain important documents and also outdooring certain important things that people would have to be aware to be able to make their mind in determining who they must support. The point is this, the woman that you have outdoored is relatively not a party person. I'm told he's barely 7 years in the NDC as a party. And so for me, if her nomination had come earlier, okay, it would have served the purpose. She would be able to market herself among the core support base and among all other Ghanaians. She will be known. I mean, you are going to contest with somebody like Bawumia, who is now known and all that. And so if she had come a bit earlier, it would have been fine. But, well, better late than never.
Ultimately, how would you want or do you see the election panning out? Looking at the state of COVID, its influence on the state of life, we having a register that is coming at this time where it is coming, and how we hope to see the year out.
Well, I think there are still so many uncertainties, given the rate at which our COVID infection is going. I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow we are told that we should suspend the registration. I wouldn't also be surprised if we are told that because of some reasons, let us rethink whether we want to hold elections or not. Because, you see, key policy makers, key people of influence are now all being infected. And so I want to believe that now that they are recovering, with the experience that they've had, they will be able to proffer certain proactive advice that would make all of us cautious. You understand? And so there are so many uncertainties. Let us wait for a while. Let's give ourselves about 1 more month to see what happens, because now it is becoming scary. I thought we had won the battle over COVID, but it seems to me that the kinds of things that are going on, we are going up day by day. Yesterday alone, I read that now we have about 400 cases on daily basis. We are recording 400 people. And
averagely,
on the average, 400 people a day. And I think, where are we heading towards? Are we heading towards Italy, or do we have the structures, the health facilities to be able to contain some of these things? I don't think we do.
That's a concern.
And so the earlier we act, the better for us.
Well, thank you very much. Professor Ransford Gyampo. And what's your address in Salt Point again?
Oh, 831 Prabio, PAV Answer Street.
Thank you very much. We've been speaking to Professor Ransford Gyampo. Make sure you check out his account on Facebook. Just in case you haven't heard or watched from him in a while, daily, check there. But he is an associate professor of political science, has been teaching this for over a decade and a half, has great stint in teaching, not only local, but has had great sabbaticals also abroad. But that's what we bring you right here on the AM show. Well, we're taking a break. When we come back, we'll have more for you.